All right, so we just got on a huge tangent, right? We were just talking about stuff. I figured we should put this into a video for everybody to kind of talk about the complications, right? We're discussing salaries, players. We kind of went through the history. If that's something you guys want to learn more about, come to the stream, twitch.tv/Lawler. But we were talking about kind of the player salaries, the evolution of how they've gotten to the point where they are. And just for some context, again, we're talking specifically about Rocket League Esports. We're talking specifically about a game that in their majors pulls anywhere from like 350 to 400,000 concurrent. You're talking watch parties from some of the big names like Kamato of K Corp and Moist Critical of Moist, pulling like 35 to 40,000 for their viewing parties. You've also got some pretty high name profile like organizations in the space, right? You've got, you know, some of the iconics like the G2s and all that kind of stuff, and then some lesser knowns as well. But the big thing to consider here is like the amount of times that I'm sure CCP is like his ears are buzzing right now. The amount of times people are like, yo, Cloud9, why isn't Cloud9 in Rocket League Esports anymore? Why isn't 100 Thieves picking up a team? Why isn't... And the difficulty is when you're an org looking at these things, you want probably two things. Number one, you want to make sure that you're in the main event, right? Like you want to make sure that in an open circuit match or format where anybody has the ability to sign up and go and compete and make the main stage, you want a team that's going to consistently be on the main event broadcast, hypothetically like top 8, because then you're getting the most screen time possible. Because at the end of the day, these are businesses. They're trying to make money. They need to be able to sell the sponsorships and say, hey, this broadcast pulls $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 at the major, or 400,000 viewers at the majors. They're in front of this audience. That is where your logo will be. And then hopefully some other exciting ways that they can incorporate their sponsorships, because those sponsorships, they get paid a ton of money for a time period. The last deal that I was witness to was a 6-month deal for $150,000. Cool. That pays for like a player's salary for the year. So how does this come to be? How is this possible? Why aren't they just immediately pulling the trigger? Let's explain with the numbers, and hopefully this like puts it into perspective. Right now, the most sought-after region to be in is North America. North America has all the orgs where they're normally based. It has the most, like, sponsorship and profitability margins. Like, the money is definitely a churn in North America, and the salaries represent that. Right now, the top tier, you're talking teams are anywhere from, like, $9,000 to $14,000 a month in pay per player. That is what you're looking at. We're going to talk about probably the top end, just to give you a perspective, because if I'm an organization and I want to come into Rocket League, I want to make sure that I'm picking up the best, or that I have a team that I know is going to be competitive. Team like Gen G, team like G2, team like V1, Space Station, you know, NRG maybe, you know, things like that, where these teams have such a value that is provided because the notoriety and the namesake of these players. And I hope these players are also listening to this stuff, because these are things that they can also put in their contracts. Things like, yes, my name does carry weight. Yes, I have a big fan base. Look at my impressions on Twitter. You're not just paying for me as a player, you're also paying for my engagement with the community and my namesake. And I hope that the players like apparently Jack and everybody else are saying, look at my content, look at my interactions, look at my stream numbers. These are valuable, and that is something that you want to pay for. So if we take the very top, we're going to start at that 14K, and very simple. 14 times 12, it's $168,000 a year per player, which is, if you times that by 3, that's $500,000 a year. Luckily for Rocket League, we've only got 3 players per team, but you're figuring you're paying a coach. Most coaches will make like half of that. A coach will take like this rate and half. Some get incentives. Like coach salaries are very different, but they definitely aren't being compensated what the players are. And then you've got a sub that's usually on a retainer or something. It all varies on what you have. And then you got to talk about the staff, you know, sports psychologists, all that kind of stuff behind the scenes, whatever the organization decides to do. But you're talking for a top tier team. We're talking the peak, the best of the best, the team that you expect to be able to win majors and win a world championship. You're talking about $500,000 a year. Okay. Now, if I'm an esports organization and I want to do that, there's a few different ways that I can pick up players, right? I can find an up and coming talent and make an offer. Cloud9 has done this. During last offseason, Cloud9 approached multiple up-and-coming talent. Daniel, Beast Mode, Aqua, etc. and said, hey, we'll pay you whatever the heck you want. Go build a team. And they gave them the keys to the castle. Now, the thing about that is very risky. If you are a player that goes up and makes, that is a lot of pressure on you as a player. That is you being required to go and make that money back. Like, hey, we paid you a ton of money. We're going to sign you. If we sign you, there's a chance that they pull back on that. There's a chance that they're just like, maybe we don't want to do that. And they're just dangling keys. And then the players do this, take this risk, and it doesn't pay off. That's definitely a thing. At the end of the day, these orgs are looking out for themselves. While some of them are good-hearted and good-spirited, there's a lot that do not give two about you. They don't. And that's kind of scary, especially for a 15-year-old kid. I know they have approached beast mode. I know for a fact they approached First Killer, and First Killer didn't even reply to the email from what I've heard. Like, Cloud9's like, yo, we want to offer you the bag. Go build a team. And he goes, deuces. Like, he didn't even read it, to my knowledge. That is one way you can do it. I don't know if it's the best way, but those are things that can be done to find a team. Is you pick a new player, you give them the keys to the castle, you allow them to kind of develop or build whatever they want, pick up their friends, you know, whatever. I don't trust the negotiating skills of a 15-year-old. Just me. But if I'm a 15-year-old and I say, hey, I've got a ton of money, player from this team, I want to poach you, you want to come with? Probably not going to go well. That's my assumption. The other option is they can buy out a team. So if you are a team, say, for example, you are a G2. If I'm G2, I am known as one of the original organizations in the scene. I have a foundation and a foothold in this space. I have spent years. You're talking about increasing salaries. Obviously, they're at this point now, but in the past, they used to not be. Rizzo has talked that in the last, like, season and a half, 2 seasons since he's retired, salaries have basically doubled. It's gone up a lot. That is pretty standard considering we went to open circuit. It's more difficult. Like, there's a lot more pressure. You play more matches. There's more exposure, all that kind of stuff. So G2 has kind of put themselves in at the ground level and has built that fan base over time and has probably got one of the biggest fan bases alongside probably NRG. The first 3 organizations to sign, like, big organizations, I don't really consider iBuyPower one that was, like, of note in the grand scheme of things. Although those players are getting paid like $600 a month. Pretty solid back then, like really solid in season 1. But you're talking, it was SK Gaming pre-RLCS. They had SK Gaming, and then it was G2 because Kronovi immediately was like, yeah, gimme. And then it was NRG who picked up Kings of Urban. Those are your original teams in Rocket League. So G2 as a team, if you were looking to buy them out, has a lot of exponential benefits or like multipliers that you can put on this number. Because G2 is going to want to do a couple things. One, they're probably going to want to stay in the game. If they even remotely consider giving up their roster, which would be insanity, it's not going to happen. You're having to pay for it. So not only do they want you to cover this cost, but they want you to pay all the time and effort, whatever they deem is appropriate for that. And then on top of that, they've got to want to have enough of a money like gain so they can go and make an offer to another team because they probably want to still stay in the game. The only way you see an organization like G2 or Space Station or anything like that give up that spot is if the money is so absurd that everybody just retires. You're basically having to pay for the entirety of a Space Station for them to be like, yeah, like we are never getting back into Rocket League because we've made so much money that it doesn't make sense anymore. Like we have done everything there is to do. We're good. And they just back out. Like the last buyouts I heard about were well in the 7 figures, and and everybody's like immediately like, yeah, there's no way. You can offer us well over $1 million for our team, and we're still not even close. Like you are nowhere near. Like you're talking for an RLCS spot while we don't have a franchise league. In comparison, the CDL, the Call of Duty League, CDL franchise spots, the last time I checked were $25 million, and they've probably gone up or down a little bit since then, but like, I would say they're 22 to 25 million minimum for a guaranteed franchise spot. That is the amount of money funding wise that you need to say, hey, I have a team and a spot on this broadcast full time. And no offense to Call of Duty, their numbers are abysmal. It's not good. It is not good. But that is what the spot, being in front of those advertisements, the franchise opportunities, the rev share options, that is what it costs. And you're talking, if you're paying this amount for a team per year, and then on top of that, you're talking about the benefits of being in front of that org and that spot and that viewership and that everything else, the long-term benefits and everything else. Like, yeah, to buy out and take our spot and us having to find a way back in, That's worth a lot of money. I could see it being worth tens of millions of dollars. Why not? So when people ask me, hey, why isn't Cloud9 and Rocket League? Why isn't 100 Thieves picked up a spot? Why isn't, I'm like, do you guys have a spare $10 million to go pick up? In jokes aside, in this economy, like, you just saw all these organizations lay off a ton of staff, not just like esports orgs. You're seeing Psyonix have to cut casters, like 4 or 5 of them. Spaceman, Super, Gregan got let go, like a bunch of people being let go across the board. And all, like 2023 is going to be rough for esports. Many people predict that 2023 for esports is going to take a hit, and a lot of us are nervous about it. But like, to take a spot for a team that is at the top tier, like, you are talking, again, this is at the high end. This is what you're talking, like, that's the initial investment for what players are doing for this year. And I'm glad players are getting paid. I'm so happy for them. It's been a long time coming for them to get like that serious money. And I hope they're investing it intelligently, and they're taking the opportunities to build their brands, as I've talked about for years and got criticized heavily for the build your brand kind of mentality. But like, some of these players are making more than this in YouTube per month, if not on par. Like, they're essentially doubling their salary by saying, hey, this car is insane, watch me play ranked again. Like, I'm not afraid. I've done the numbers. Squishy probably makes $12,000 a month from YouTube. That's insane. And then he's getting paid his salary on top of it from NRG, and NRG pays well. Like, some of these players are making $25,000 a month from, you know, their efforts of social media, YouTube, all that kind of stuff, as well as their salaries. Again, in an entertainment industry where your career is expected 2 to 3 years, you're going to be compensated heavily for being in an industry that entertainment is, you know, is king, and people want to watch. And when you've got a namesake and a fan base that has value. So those are the types of things that when people ask, yo, Rocket League Esports, why no big orgs, this and that, think about the investment, because it's not just the initial payment. That's just to buy the spot in the team. That's not talking about the effort that goes into then creating content. That doesn't talk about the ability to build them up, boot camping, you know, the other needs, jersey costs, you know, all the like logistical things that we don't know about or see behind the scenes. You know, everybody's criticizing Team Liquid about how they don't support their team, but they're like, yeah, we can boot camp whenever we want, flights, hotel accommodations, all that kind of stuff, like facility costs, like all that stuff that they have, the support that they get from their staff. We don't know the numbers of. We can guesstimate, but it's expensive. So you're talking initial buyout, trying to make sure you can sustain that for an extended amount of time, because that's just the initial. Like, hypothetically, let's say someone buys out a team. They pay $10 million. You're now expected to pay them roughly anywhere from 450 to 500K per year. And you want to at least give them a chance to be successful. So you say, you know what, let's do that for 3 years. So you're talking for a team, initially, you're talking a minimum like 12.5 mil, 11.5 mil, give or take, just to get a team and give it a chance for the next 3 years. So when someone asks me, hey, 100 Thieves, Cloud9, you know, so it's Fnatic, you know, whoever, why aren't you guys in Rocket League? That number is pretty glaring to me as to why. It's expensive. It's very expensive. So I don't know. Maybe you guys think that's crazy. Maybe you guys are like, these numbers are so totally off. But I'm telling you, like, some of these salaries and stuff, like the costs, like the ability to have a top tier team that is consistently top 5 in North America is brutal. Unless you bring 2 Europeans and pick up an up and coming North American player, and then you do it in the first split. Shouts to you, Genji. Wild stuff, but hopefully that answers some of the questions. This has been a long tangent about like some of the stuff, but like as much as we would like some of these teams to come in, it is so expensive. It is so unbelievably expensive. If you guys like these kind of like rants or informational kind of things to provide some perspective of like the numbers and stuff, let me know in the comments down below. Maybe we'll do more of these in the future. I literally woke up today and was like, I have no idea what I'm gonna talk about on stream, and I asked my Discord, !Discord in the chat, somebody. Actually, I'll do it. Boop. Come join us. I literally just pinged them and I was like, yo, what do you guys want to talk about today? And ironically enough, this was not on the list. This is just from conversation and chat. So I tried to do my best to talk about the things that you guys ask about. And if there are certain things that I can talk about and educate on, we do it. They don't always pull views on YouTube, and hopefully they do in the future. But this is the kind of stuff that hopefully it makes you guys more educated on certain topics that, you know what, not everybody knows about. So if you guys enjoy this content, like, subscribe, notifications, we can do more of them that way. And appreciate all the support. We'll see you next time. Peace.